My life has just been a long journey of a lot of ups and downs. It's definitely been a journey for me and a process. So, like I said, I feel like I get more and more in tune with God. So, I'll just say this. I knew the book had to be done. I knew there was a pull of God, like, you got to get this book written, girl. And I was very reluctant. I did not want to do it. I just really had to pray about how to go about doing that. I didn't want to hold anything back for fear, because if God is for me, who can be against me?
One thing that you have said over and over again, just go, just do it. God gave you the vision, just do it. Like, why question it? He's going to make a way. And I see it through you. I believe it through you. You have such a beautiful spirit. Hi, and welcome to another episode and another season of the Woman Witness podcast on the Woman Witness TV network. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of dynamic women that are out there making a positive impact in their lives, in their family, in the community around them. Women of resilience, women of faith, women who are bold enough, strong enough to turn around, grab the hand of another sister and pull them through and be a witness. Today, I have a powerhouse of a guest, a woman who has turned bold moves into a blueprint for impact. Born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, she made her mark in Kentucky and kept it pushing that landed her in Atlanta. She is a model, an actress, an activist, a director, and a mother of three who's built her career in entertainment without losing sight of her pain and her purpose. You've seen her in Tyler Perry's I Can Do Bad All By Myself, Drop Dead Diva, and The Vampire's Diary. But her work doesn't just stop there on screen. In 2010, she founded the Feed the Homeless Tour, a nonprofit that's touched lives across the country. In 2022, she launched Us 3 Productions, creating a powerful, healing-centered stories. And she's also a best-selling author. Her memoir, I Am, a Poetic Ensemble, fearlessly tackles mental health, suicide, abuse, human trafficking, and survival. She is driven. She is fearless. She is changing lives through art, advocacy, and action. I am so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Vitelle. Hey, Vitelle, welcome to The Well. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much. I am great. And I loved that introduction. So beautifully said. I was like, oh, she's talking about me. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. When I got your application, I was like, I have to talk to her. I mean, a mother of three, and you're juggling it all. I mean, you were on the road. Bless your heart. Thank you for meeting me. In between scenes and your work. So I'm so excited to have you on, Vitelle, and I'm going to try to get you in and out of here. But I think you have a powerful story that we all need to hear. We all want to hear it. I want to talk to you about what inspired you to pursue your career. What inspired you to get started in acting and modeling, and how did your journey begin?
I don't even really remember that far back, honestly, because I've just always been doing this. Like, I remember just as a little child wanting to always pursue this, and not necessarily for what most, a lot of people you see coming up, they want the fame, they want the fortune and those things. Like, I always, even as a younger child, had a vision that I knew that this was something that I was called to, this was something I was gifted at, and that I could use it to make a difference in the world. So, I remember being in the pulpit at like 7, 8 years old and seeing a part of
Mm,
the church that had the roof was torn and thinking, I'm going to be rich enough one day to fix that roof. Just thinking in my head, like,
right.
this is where I'm going because I'm going to be an actress and I'm going to make it this far. I could just see my whole future play out even at that young age. And then knowing even then that it's going to be used to come back and help my people. So that's just always been in me. That's always been something that I've aspired to do and be. And so I just started going for it, every chance I got in school, in church. I was always acting. I can't say that that was always nurtured, but as often as possible, that I get the opportunity, I did take the opportunity. But I didn't have like as much support as the family from the family as I would have wanted. I don't, they weren't able to see the vision that I saw. So,
Mm.
I'm grateful that now everyone kind of is starting to see it. And now they're starting to be like, oh, okay, this is really happening. And she hasn't quit doing this. She hasn't stopped talking about what she was talking about since a child.
Right.
Excuse me, Colin's getting to me out here.
Right. I love your vision, and I do strongly believe in that. That everybody will be able to see your vision. When God shows you that dream and he shows you that little bit of taste of your future, you run after it. And just looking at your accomplishments, I mean, that's what you have been doing. I want to ask you, you gained a lot of recognition starting in Kentucky, in the surrounding areas before landing in Atlanta. What was the pivotal moment that happened in your career early on that brought you from Kentucky to Atlanta?
I guess I kind of knew I was going to have to go to a bigger city. I was working in Kentucky and I was working in all those surrounding states. So having to drive all the time, I was like, this just isn't feasible. And of course, we all know Hollywood is the place to be if you really want to make it big. And so I was very hesitant at first to just take that leap of faith and go to Hollywood like most actors do. And then at the
Mm,
same time, I was like, I'm not most actors. I feel
mm,
different. I feel like this is not the same, like, rise to fame journey as everyone else's. So I really had to like go to God and evaluate where I needed to be. I know that at that time, one of my desires was to work with Tyler Perry, and him being in Atlanta and kind of, his story just inspired me to go from homeless, which I was as well, to go
mm.
from homeless to the multi-billionaire that he is now.
Yeah.
And then just to see that he was basically changing the game in Atlanta. He was creating his own lane. And I'm like, that's more up my alley. That's more like what I'm aspiring to be, not just drop everything, move to LA and hope you make it happen, which a lot of actors do that. But I'm like, that's just not me. I feel like, I was leaning more towards the Tyler Perry side of it because that was really the only person at that time that I felt like I could relate to or compare to when it comes to the vision that I see. So if this is the person that's doing the closest to this right now, which still isn't exact, but the closest thing to
Mhm.
it right now that's out there, then I want to go to where he is and I want to work with him. And so that's why I chose Atlanta over going to LA. And it didn't take me 2 months before I had my foot in the door and kind of making a name for myself, working 24/7, literally
Yeah.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, going nonstop to make that happen in that short amount of time. But
Yeah.
yeah, within 2 months, I was in there. I was working hand in hand and face to face with them. And I'm like, okay, I'm
Here
doing
I
this.
am.
And I just kept going.
Dang. Vital, did you get that? Did you get this vision? Right? I mean, it's one thing to like think it, it's another thing just to jump out there and do it. Like, what pushed you? I mean, I feel like so many times we get doors shut in our face, right? And we get discouraged. Like, talk
Right.
to some of the people who
Mhm.
are like tired of doors being closed in their face. How do we keep going?
Right. I mean, honestly, for me, that is what pushes me. I mean, when I do get no's, I feel like every time somebody tells me that something is impossible or tells me no, like it's just something built in me that's just like, oh, okay, we'll see about that. I kind of, I guess maybe it's the stubbornness or something, but I just, it makes me want to go even harder. It feels like a challenge to me to prove that what you're telling me is impossible. I guarantee you I can make it happen. It feels like a challenge and it makes me go even harder. Like, how a lot of us work best under pressure, which I'm like that as well.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with I work best under, I guess, adversity. And you're giving me all this adversity. You're just making me go even harder.
Right.
So that's just how I operate. I thank God for that because I have been through so much adversity in my life that it just keeps building me for this this purpose. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? You talk about it in your book. I want to jump to your book real quick. Your memoir that you recently wrote, I Am a Poetic Ensemble. I want to talk to you about that. It's deeply rooted and tackles tough topics, such as a lot of things that you said that you've been through, some of the things that fuel you to keep going, such as the depression, suicide, abuse, human trafficking, and those various topics. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even know where to start with that really, but
Mm,
like you mentioned, it's been a lot. Like my life has just been a long journey of a lot of ups and downs, a lot of trials and tribulations, where it would be really easy for me to sit here and say, woe is me, and throw in the towel and give up on it all because life has just sucked so far. But thank God I've come to a place where I'm able to look back on all of those things and see now that every single experience happened for a reason. Every single experience built me to this moment. It made me stronger in the end. If I'm asked would I go back and change any of it, the answer is absolutely not.
understood.
And in those times when I was in it, it was I couldn't, it was harder to see that. But I am grateful that even in those times that I was in it, I did have the unique ability to look ahead and still keep hope alive and keep my eye on the prize and, see the light at the end of the tunnel, as they say. And so I was always, still aspiring and pushing through whatever it was I was going through at the time. But now that I'm through it and then I'm able to look back in hindsight.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Just about your journey in writing the book. But I want to ask you, like, what motivated you to just write the book?
So I'll just say this. I knew the book had to be done. I knew there was a pull of God, like, you got to get this book written, girl. And I was very reluctant. I did not want to do it. So even when I hear you in the beginning just introducing me and talking about being fearless and all of this stuff, and I'm like, who's she talking about? Because I don't, like, for me, it's like I never felt fearless. I just did it scared. And
Mm,
I felt purposed. I felt like I knew deep down inside that God had me set out on this mission and for this purpose. So I have to follow through with it.
yeah.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So when I become bold enough to go ahead and follow through with it, then I will. So I was working towards it. I have several books that I've been writing, working on for years that I'm like, when the time is right, when, then I'm going to publish them. And it was hard, especially with this first book, because it is my testimony and so many people are involved in it. I was like, Lord, can we just wait till certain people die? Like, so that we can, so, like that's just me being real,
Yeah.
so we don't have to worry about them
Yeah.
retaliating or anything, and even in telling my testimony, I'm not saying any names. I'm not, if
Yeah.
the shoe fits, wear it,
Yeah.
I try to
Yep.
be very vague with my testimony to where it's relatable to everybody, because you may not have gone through the same exact thing that I went through in my relationship, but how many people have gone through a divorce? How
Yeah.
many people have been in a narcissistic
Yep.
relationship? So many people can relate to the story
Yep.
without me even having to get into specifics and still being able to tell my testimony. So I just really had to pray about how to go about doing that. I didn't want to hold anything back for fear,
Mm-hmm.
because if God is for me, who can be against
Come
me?
on.
I
Yeah.
had to keep reminding myself that. But then, I just went ahead and published it one day, and I was like, well, ain't no turning back now. And now, now we're here. Now we're on a whole world tour with it. And it's just moving forward. So as I continue to move forward in it, I become more and more bold. I become more and more fearless. I become more where I can identify with how you introduced me in the first place. And now it's like, as we go through this tour and each city that we go to and people are expecting us and God just moves and miracles happen, and then the enemy gets mad and he try to throw things at us left and right, and God just helps us power through all these things. It's just more and more proof, and it makes me speak more boldly to say, hey, it's no doubt in my mind, you cannot convince me otherwise, that
Mm,
God is doing this. Like, this is what it
mm,
is. So, yeah.
mm. Oh man, I have chills right now with the things that you just said. You said you did it afraid. I always say this. I read this book by Joyce Myers, Just Do It Afraid. And I never fully understood that. I remember I wrote my first book. I turned the internet off. I turned my phone off. I did because I was so scared of telling my truth. And it's something that you said when you put your whole testimony out there, and it's so important that you did, and you hit all those areas so those people that are connected to your story can find you. And thank you
Right.
for being bold. Thank you for being
Thank you.
fearless and doing it. I want to ask
Thank
you, how has sharing your personal experience through poetry and through your book helped you heal? And what impact have you seen in results of it?
Oh, absolutely. It has helped me heal so much. Like just when I think I can't get no more healed, then I'm like, oh, I'm even more healed today, than yesterday. Like it's definitely been a journey for me and a process. So like I said, I feel like I get more and more in tune with God really every time I do the show, every time I speak or even do an interview and all of the things that come along with this. It's healing every time. And so to see other people healed by something that I went through, it I want to say gives me permission, or it helps me forgive everything I've gone through even more. It helps me forgive the people who at one time I felt like they took me through that, and now I see it as God allowed me to go through that. Thank you. I'm so grateful for these experiences. It's just like a
Yeah.
completely different shift from would be considered normal to this. It's not normal to say I'm so grateful that I went through being kidnapped and imprisoned and all that. Like nobody does that, but just to be able to see what God is doing with it for other people, and then getting out there and telling my story and hearing the testimonies after every show. I get people, that is my favorite part of the show, is when it's all over and it's like, whew, I made it. But then people start coming up to me after and they're telling me their own testimonies, and I'm just like, what? You related to that part? Like, I didn't even understand why God had me speak on that part, because who could relate to that? But then to see that somebody
Right.
does is like, oh wow. Okay,
Mm,
that's why God, and I'm just
yeah.
seeing all the pieces just come together, and it starts to make sense to me. And then I start to get to a place where even if it doesn't make sense to me, or I don't hear the testimonies or anything, like I just know now at this point, whether I see it or not, like I know that even the people that dip out without telling me their testimony, it impacted them. And I just trust
Absolutely.
that as the seed is planted, people go out throughout their day and they are breaking off these generational curses. Like they're continuing to do it because of what they saw in my testimony. They're continuing to leave domestic violence relationships that could have ended their life. Like we're literally changing the future, because so many people would have died if they had not begun their healing process and got out of certain situations or overcome suicidal ideation and things like that we focus on. So we're literally
Mm,
preventing lives lost, and it's that important. So that in itself is healing for me, and just knowing that it's helping other people to heal is just,
yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm just sitting here in awe with you right now. And what is that old saying? I don't look like what I've been through, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's why it's so
Right.
that's why it's so
Right.
important to tell your
Absolutely.
testimony, because I'm like, I would have never thought. No,
Right.
and that's
Right.
why, look, God will use us. All he needs is our yes, and for us to begin to move and speak, and he will speak through us. Thank you for doing that. I want to ask you, you talked a little bit about how your story relates to Tyler Perry's story, and how you were once homeless, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper. If you can, tell us what inspired you to start the Feed the Homeless tour in 2020, 2010, excuse me.
Yeah, sure. Originally, it just started off as kind of a curiosity, because even prior to being homeless, well, I was homeless as a child with my mom, but I didn't really remember that well. As a child, it's kind of just an adventure. So it wasn't traumatizing at that time. So as an adult, when I just started to see homeless people on the side of the road, and I just started to, just empathize with them, it's naturally in me to empathize. And I thought, like, what is their story? Why are they in that situation? What's their deal? I wanted to know. And so I literally pulled over one day and asked the guy who was standing there homeless, like, why are you homeless? Like that's just me. People know I'm very blunt and straightforward. It's just like, how else do I ask this? And of course he
Yeah.
didn't take offense to it. He really helped me understand, and it just opened my eyes. Like he explained to me that he was a veteran, how he had fought for this country, and he's out here on the streets. And I'm just like perplexed. Like, in America, like there's billionaires
Right.
here. How are you out here? You fought for this country for us to be able to be billionaires, and now you're out here on the streets. His family
Mm.
had disowned him. It just really helped me understand. I ended up taking him to get groceries, and he took me and introduced me to all the other people in their tent city, which is where they all kind of collectively lived, and they only let certain people in there. Like, I just became a part of their community, and I'm like, this is a whole community of people that they need assistance, but people don't know their stories, and that's why they're not getting the assistance that they need. So I was determined from then on to tell their stories and to, of course, help them. So it started off as the Feed the Homeless tour, because obviously food is the first necessity that they needed. And so we
Yeah.
started taking care of that. But as it grew over the years, it was like, we can do so much more. So, we had mothers out there who needed diapers and clothing. And so we started helping with clothes and getting people in hotel rooms or apartments or resumes built, and
Mm.
just whatever skill set we could offer. We literally would just assess each individual and say, what is it that you need to take you from where you are to where you want to be? That's
Yeah.
basically the question for everybody, but the answer is different for every single person. So you've got these cookie cutter organizations that they feel like, you come in here, you get this, you leave, congratulations, your life should be better by now. Like, it's just not like that. So we tried to custom make each person's solution and just help them. And I could only do so much of that, honestly, without funding, without the government assistance, because at the end of the day, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry for the government, so they don't want to completely eradicate homelessness. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that they don't want a lot of people to know, and I was speaking out against that. And I felt like at one point they put a halt to it because I was telling the truth and I was bringing attention to these circumstances. And they actually changed the laws in Georgia to where you couldn't even feed the homeless out in the parks or anything anymore. You're legally not allowed to feed the homeless anymore. So I'm like, I have no
Really?
doubt that that had a lot to do with me. Yes. Yeah, we would be out feeding the homeless. They would have police just around us, just intimidated, trying to make us stop. I'm not unfamiliar to that situation.
Wow.
So, and then I ended up having to go through court and having to I got arrested. It was a whole lot of things that led from where I started off with the Feed the Homeless tour to where, I'll say where it's going to be, because it has not stopped. I had to start doing things privately. And so now, as I get myself to the next level, the next tax bracket, I'm connecting with more people who have power in this world, because let's face it, the money is where the power is at here. And so now that I'm creating the tools that I need, I'm building up what we need to really take that organization to a whole nother level and really make a difference in the homeless industry.
Mm. 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 Look, okay, I'm like, let me leave that right there. But thank you for dropping some nuggets. And look, those who have an ear, let them hear. Let me let me ask you. I want to talk to you about being able to balance it all. You're juggling a lot, Vitelle. Bless your heart. I mean, there's a lot of us who want to do it. We just can't do it. All right. So talk to me how you're juggling this all.
Yes, yes. I say never say can't, because I mean, I'm trying to get out of the habit of that myself, but there are so many times, like even something, doing a show, I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't, and I'm like, I catch myself like, oh, stop saying that. I gotta, I'm learning how to operate more in spirit and less in flesh. So I can say this: in my flesh, no, I can't do this, because this is physically impossible. Like, but in my spirit feels strong, and I know that I can do this. So I have, like, even just since this last show that we just did in Washington, D.C., just this past week, like, I came back from Washington with such a power. Like, I had a literal encounter with God where
Mm.
I was able to tap into that spirit power that He put in us, that I felt many times throughout my life, but I've never been able to stay tapped into it long enough to know that I am completely unstoppable. Like,
Come
and so
on.
now I feel like, how you get to the
Yeah.
point where you just feel like, okay, I think I've arrived. Like, I am awake now. I am not, you cannot stop me. Like, no matter how much you try to intimidate me, say you cannot,
Yes.
you
I'm
cannot
supposed to
stop me.
be
So
here.
Yes, it's exactly when you know, like, and so I had to have that encounter and that experience so that I have no doubt now. And I know without, no matter what doubt, not just like, because people are going to come against you with doubt. They're going to say, oh, it's just this and you just that. And, you got lucky or you were born into it, whatever. Like, I am living proof. I was not born into this. I started from the bottom. Now I'm here, like I cannot make this up, but there's gonna be people that come at you, but then you're gonna come at yourself even more. Like nobody can doubt us more than ourselves.
So
Nobody
true.
can give me all these excuses and make excuses for why I'm not doing it or why I can't do it yet or I gotta have this much money before I can. Nobody can say can't to me as often as I say it to myself. So you have to really get to the point where you're walking so much in spirit, and when you feel yourself falling back down to the flesh, you just like go to the word or turn on some worship music or do something that will help your flesh. Like these are all
Yeah.
tools to help our flesh to stay there as long as possible. Because as
Yeah.
long as you stay there, you're powerful and you're unstoppable. But as soon as you start falling out to that flesh, then it's like, oh dang, I can't. Or that don't seem like that'd be possible. Or like, how am I gonna do that? Just know that you're called to it and trust that God's gonna put the plan in place and work it all out. You don't have to know everything. Like I had to get to the point where it's like, okay, I don't have to know everything, but I know God told me to do this, so here I am. Like Lord, now would be a good time to show up and make it happen because I'm here. Just doing my part. I just got to do my part. That's all I can do, and I just trust God to do the
Yeah.
rest. That's how I
Yeah.
juggle it all every day. Because yeah, you would not believe. Like you're looking at me right now, and I'm not as dressed
Man.
up as I often would be for interviews. I have my hair out. I got my this is my mommy look that y'all get to see on here today. Because I also have my kids
Yes.
over here at PetSmart. This is what y'all don't see. My kids over here at
Oh.
PetSmart playing with animals. So I finished this interview. You know what I'm saying? And I'm also
Oh.
moving into a I'm also getting the office set up. I'm moving into an office, so I got my team helping me to delegate and work on that. So it's like there's always more going on than just what you see. But I feel capable now, and I know that I can because God is putting all the pieces into place, all the people that are supposed to help, and all the things that need to happen, and the patience in my children, so that I can sit here and say, you know what? I'm focused on this interview right now, and this is how I'm juggling it all. So I'm still juggling it all, but it's by the grace of God and His power only that I can even do it.
Come on. I don't know. Come on. I just keep hearing Vitelle as you're talking. Come on, like David, King David, right? Like when you said I'm here now, God, show up, do your part. He got in that ring with Goliath and he was like, I'm here now, God, do your part. Come on, slay your giant. Vitelle, thank you for just like putting that in terms that we can all relate to. Just go. If you know God told you to do it, just show up and do it. He will make a way. I want to ask you, bless your heart, what's next for Vitelle? What do you have coming up? What projects? I enjoyed watching your trailer. I probably sat on YouTube watching you forever. I'm just like, she is so good. Like,
Oh,
I am like
thank
overwhelmed with
you.
you. What's next for you?
Thank you. Man, so that just made me cheese so hard because I know there's so many things next, and some of it I can't even necessarily share and
Got
some
it.
of it doesn't make sense to me honestly yet. So some of it I can't share because it doesn't make sense to me yet.
Yeah.
But I just know that like what we're doing right now, I'm trying to take it one day at a time because it's so much, and the vision is so much bigger than me and so overwhelming. Then if I start to think too far ahead, then I start to get in that doubt again, like, oh, that don't seem like I can't do all that. So I try to take it one step at a time and just, so right now we're finishing this world tour. It's going to be done in June. So we're going to keep pressing forward. I'm expecting every single show to get better and better, God to show out more and more each show is and so people are starting to take notice of it. So we're looking into getting more funding, more investors, more, people that have the ability financially to really catch the vision and say, we're about to pour into that so that it
I
can go
love
to the next level. So all of this whole vision of the movies, the plays, the books, we're creating projects that haven't been done before. It's not just a movie, it's not just a play. It is much more than that, merged together to save lives and
it.
through the power of the Holy Spirit, like literally life-changing experiences that we haven't figured out a name for it yet to call it, but we just call it an Us Three Productions experience. So there's so much more of that to come, and I'm expecting, that this earth realm now catch up to what God has already shown me in the spirit realm, and He's shown my team, and they've caught the vision, so they're all on board. So it's like, okay, God, we need all these people in this earth realm with the money to really go ahead and start lining up so we can do what we need to do on this earth. But there's no doubt we're going to do it. We're going to keep pressing forward with or without. But people are really starting to catch on that, okay, if they're doing this much with no funding and they've been doing this much for this many years, what's going to happen when we really put some funding behind this? Like, you're going to find out. That's all I can say about
Mm,
that.
yes. Those who are faithful over a few, God will make way. I know that to be
Right.
true. Let me ask you,
That's
if you can give one piece of advice to inspiring authors, actors or actresses, activists, entrepreneurs, what would it be?
one piece of advice. It's so hard to narrow it down to one. But I'll leave it with this. You have to know that you know that you know that this is what you're called to do, because like I mentioned earlier, so many people want the fame and the fortune, and it looks so good on TV. You don't know what them people are going through, and that when you step into that industry and you say, this is what I want, and you go for it, you're going to face so many things that you didn't realize because the grass was greener on the other side. So you have to be so sure that when you start to face those things, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you get
Yeah.
that rejection, when you get those no's and all of those things start to happen, that you're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, because I'm so sure in what God's called me to do that that doesn't faze me at all. And you just keep it moving, you keep growing, and you keep walking into that. That's the only ones that make it. You see a
Mm,
lot of people start off wanting to do this, wanting to be whatever it is that seems,
glamorous.
outside of just, glamorous. Yeah, outside of, what, while I was a child, I'm in here when they ask what you want to be when you grow up, I'm drawing Superman on the paper. I'm Everybody else drawing doctors and lawyers and mailmen and all this regular stuff that's normal, but I'm looking at like this Superman with a cape. Like, this is no less normal than what y'all are drawing to me. So
Mm,
you have to know, from the beginning, that, and be so sure in it that you don't give up on it, because otherwise you'll be like, just like everybody else who's aspiring to do something, and they end up giving up on it, and then you feel like you've wasted all this time. But if you know that is for you, then you keep going no matter how long it takes. So
mm,
time is not even a factor. So, a lot of celebrities, a lot of people who are doing the things out there, they didn't make it till they were in their 60s, or, sometimes even older. And it's like, that's when they really bam, and that's who they became, who they were. But they knew from the beginning. So you don't know how long they were struggling and working and sacrificing and living in their van like Tyler Perry did, and all of these things to lead up to that point where now you see them as who they are, but you don't know what they went through to get to that point, because they knew who they were. They knew you have to know the person that everybody sees eventually. I already see that person. I already knew that person. And now y'all see it too. So once you have that vision, once you know it for sure, hang on to it and fight for it no matter how long it takes and what you have to do to get it.
come on, Vitelle. I, we could sit here and talk forever, and I really want to.
I know, right? I lost track of
I'm gonna have to have you on for a part two because I still want to dig
time.
deeper, but I'm gonna have to have you on for part two. But you've poured, you have given us a lot of nuggets that we can take for ourselves. One thing that you have said over and over again: just go, just do it. God gave you the vision, just do it. Like, why question it? He's gonna make a way, and I see it through you. I believe it through you. You have such a beautiful spirit. I want to just ask you before I let you go, reflecting on your journey thus far, what are you most proud of?
Right now. Yeah. I'm most proud of right now because, I just have never been so bold and so sure and so just ready as I am right now. So I'm so proud of this moment right now. Yeah, that's all I can think to answer with that one.
I love it. I love it. Look, let's all strive for that right now moment. That right now. You're about to make me tear up. Okay.
Look, I know
Uh,
I was not trying to get emotional in this, but I definitely feel God's power right here, because you got to think about it. Like, when you learn to live in the moment, the right now is what creates the future.
yeah.
Like, so you have to be proud of that right now to keep pressing for the future. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
this
Mm.
this is it.
That's it. Okay, Vitelle, thank you so much. I mean, you are absolutely beauty. Just tell us where to find you and where to follow you at and how we can support what you're doing.
Yes, girl, I was so caught up in this conversation, I forgot about all the folks watching that I got to promote too. Okay, yes. So you guys can follow and support and connect with me. I make it very easy. Just go to vitelle.net. That's VITELLE.net. You'll find all my social media there. You can actually text me as well. If you really want to subscribe and stay in the loop, you can text me at 770-626-5075. Text and subscribe, follow the instructions there so that I can be able to send you messages when we have shows and specials and all the things I do for my tech subscribers. But definitely connect with me wherever you are across all the platforms. VITELLE.
I love it. And I will definitely have this scrolling across the screen for you guys. And also, I'll put all of this in the description below. Vitelle, when you come to California, when you come to LA, I need to
I
know.
know, right?
Let's go.
Listen, I've made a trip out there before, and I have been feeling a little bit of a pull lately. So that was
Look.
just a little bit more confirmation. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go out that far, but Lord, if you say so, if it's, we have a saying at Us Three Productions, if it's His will, it's His bill. So He gonna
Amen.
have to pay
Amen.
that bill, and we on the way.
Amen. Look.
Yeah, so hopefully soon.
Let's just plant that little seed right there. Let's get Vitelle out here to LA. We'd love to
Absolutely.
have you out here. Okay, well, thank you so much for pouring at this well. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this another amazing episode. And I want to thank my guest, Vitelle. Thank you so much. I mean, I am full.
Thank you.
Your
This has been
spirit is
amazing. Me
so
too.
electrifying. I mean, like I want to jump up and down right now. Like I have chills.
No, nothing but God. Nothing but God. I
Look.
feel it too.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Woman Witness podcast on the Woman Witness TV network. I'm your host, Leah Fortier, and perhaps you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time, bye bye.